temperatures with 90% humidity, but it's a little bit cooler today than it was earlier in the week. Technology-wise, just the stuff that you see around here, the case break, doing things till midnight on 2 or 3 nights of the show. Everybody has jumped in, and this industry has grown so much bigger, and we've done everything that we could to accommodate that and to actually welcome that into the National.
All right, so I'm going to introduce the 3 gentlemen to my right who have been, I think, since day one with Mr. Brogy here at every National. All right, so let's welcome, first of all, to my far right, from Mile High Card Company, Brian Drent. Yeah. In between Brian and this gentleman here is Joe Tomasulo from Memory Lane Auctions. And then Mr. Wonderful himself, Derek Grady from Heritage Auctions. I'm going to ask Brian first. Brian, you've worked with John for many, many years. Your observations.
Oh, man, I just, it's beyond words, truthfully. I mean, it's from the time I've been doing this show, it almost raises the hair on my arms just to remember what the show used to be like and what it's like now. I mean, look around. I mean, it's truly the Disneyland of sports collectibles. So it's a credit to John Brogy and his staff for the vision that they had and what they put together and how they've brought this to another level.
Joe?
Little before my time. I've been doing this about 15 years. I don't go back as far as Derek and Brian, but over the past 15 years, I've seen this show evolve at an incredible rate. I mean, you look at the attendance today versus a decade ago, no comparison.
Derek?
You know, I think my first one was 1996 as somebody to walk the floor to buy stuff as how old was I in 1996? Oh, I was probably 40 in 1996. But either way, John and his staff we're always in the corporate area for Heritage, and I can tell you they're amazing with whether it's the dealers, whether it's the corporate area, whether it's the collectors. They've done a wonderful job. And now, what was the attendance you're expecting here?
Well, we're expecting to surpass Anaheim of 91, which was roughly 90,000 people.
So we're probably going to hit 6 figures, right? Yeah.
Possibility 100,000 people this weekend. That is amazing.
I have not had the opportunity to walk the floor like I'd like to, but it is the breadth and depth of what's here, the wax, the breakers, the vintage dealers, the modern dealers. There's truly something for everybody in here. And we'll miss John doing this and the staff, and wish him the best, success in
John,
retirement.
I can't thank you enough. You have been such a pleasure to work with over the years, and you're not going to be a stranger, right?
Not at all, not at all. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my ex-partner, Mike
Burkus.
My late partner, Mike, I guess.
Yeah.
Mike Burkus had a vision in 1980, and he kicked off this whole thing about a National and it traveling a little bit around the country. And we lost Mike in late 2015. His son Dan has jumped in and done a yeoman's job in helping to make this show what it has become today. And I won't be a stranger, Tom. Love you.
You too, John. You've been really good to us.
Take care.
Wishing you the best. How about a nice hand for John Brogy? Thank you, John. Okay, I promised you, and by the way, a little later on, we've got some other guests coming on. New Orleans Steve Lane, who has a new book out called Mickey Mantle, Life and Memorabilia. He's going to be joining us. Steve is the foremost Mickey Mantle collector in the country, in my opinion. Right? Pretty much.
The guy is obsessed with Mickey Mantle.
And he gave me a present.
And he's still here buying Mickey Mantle stuff. I saw his post that he's out of money. I don't believe it. I hope there's dealers listening to drain his bank account before he flies back.
All right, anyway, so we promised you that we would show you, actually we've got probably 4, we definitely have the 2 most valuable cards here at the convention on stage with us right now. And then there are 2 more cards that are probably in the top 10, I would think. Yeah. Right? Yeah. All right,
absolutely.
So first of all, Mile High Card Company is going to. Has the auction started yet, Brian?
No, it'll start August 23rd, and then it'll culminate.
So
September
August
9th.
23rd, Mile High Card Company will be having their auction, and this card, the Mona Lisa, is going to be in it. Brian, can you show it to us? This is the T206 Honus Wagner, and how many? About 50 of them exist.
In that ballpark, yeah.
About 50 of them exist, and they're few and far between. May I touch it?
Sure.
Thank you. This is a great card. As I said, this is going to be going into the auction. When you really think about it, this card is probably what started it all in the world of card collecting. That and the card that you're going to hold up. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, the T206 Wagner was always the one that the old timers talked about. That was the card to have.
I'll take a $25 bid for this right now.
Now you got it.
The other card that is in this beautiful conference center is another card that's going up for auction. And last year, this card in a 9.5
Yeah, sold for 12.6
sold for
million.
12.5 million.
Actually went viral before and after the auction. It's a very famous card. I was taking pictures with it the entire show.
All right, so this one is grading out at a 9. This is a 52 mantle, grading out at a 9, and I would say probably in the same price range.
No, I mean, we have this one estimated at 6 million, so actually that half a point bump actually got it over 10. So we have this estimated at 6 million. It is Rosenfind. It is literally a twin of the 9.5. You're splitting hairs as a grader, but it's a beautiful card. It's from the famous Rosenfind.
It's a beautiful card. Can't believe the centering.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Great
All right,
card.
Joe, now you have 2 cards. Why don't you tell us about it?
Sure. So this is a 1917 standard biscuit Babe Ruth. There's only 3 known. The other 2 are graded 2s, and this is graded a 6. It's one of Ruth's rarest cards. It's much rarer than the Baltimore News Ruth, which is Ruth's most valuable card. But what's really special about this card, and people don't realize it, this image is a true rookie Babe Ruth image. It was taken at Hot Springs, Arkansas, March 1915.
Right after
And then it was put on several of his issues. This
Trivia.
should sell in the area of $500,000 to $750,000.
All right, what about the second? What are you going to give him a hard time?
I mean, how many are there? This is rarer than the Baltimore News Ruth.
There's only 3 standard biscuits known. Yeah.
Do you know what I have in my collection?
Do you
Derek,
have one?
you should pick that up.
That's none of your business. But I mean, all right.
Right. What's amazing is the grade disparity.
Yeah, no, the
So you
grade's
got 2
outstanding.
2s and you got 1 6.
All right, now you've got another card. You got a T206 card there. Tell us about that. This is a really interesting card.
Well, this one has 2 really different collecting angles. So this is the famous T206 Piedmont plank, which follows the Wagner in Prestige. But this has a Piedmont back. There's only 5 Piedmont plank backs known. And what happened was, this was manually removed from what was called a scrapper sheet. They never hit the tobacco packs. So factory workers maybe saved a couple of them. And this is one of the 5 known Piedmont planks. Also interesting is it usually has a blue background color. This is missing ink. So in the printing process, the blue was never put behind Eddie Plank's Carl Horner image. We estimate this anywhere between $300,000 and $500,000.
And Joe, how much for the Ruth?
$500,000 plus.
So there's some nice value up here. All right, listen, as I said, we've got a lot of giveaways, but you have to kind of earn them. So we have some trivia
Wait, they don't
questions.
earn them by just sitting there listening to us?
Am I going to be able to flip?
I don't know if you have the ability to throw, but here, you want to throw some
I can
facts
flip
up there?
very well.
All right, so here's what you got here. We
Okay.
are
Yeah,
giving
why don't you tell
away
us?
2023 Topps Chrome. I am not an expert on modern, but I guarantee you there's autograph cards and chase cards and whatever these guys put in their modern packs nowadays. So get ready to answer his BS trivia questions, and you will get some
Killing
packs.
me. You're killing me. All right. My partner, Rico Petrocelli, Red Sox Hall of Famer. He's my broadcast partner. Rico held the American League record for a shortstop, a one season, 40 home runs. Held it for over 25 years. Who broke his record? A-Rod, you win. Just hand it to that
That was
gentleman.
horrible.
Give me a chance. You got
Absolutely
it. Okay.
horrible. The card's now damaged. Can you open the pack and embarrass him when there's
No, that's
creases
a good,
on these
you know what
modern
it is? They're light. They're very, very light. Okay. Another one. Who has, this is going to be for a T-shirt, a Great American Collectibles T-shirt. Who has the most career hits in a single season in Major League history? Each your own. These are very easy questions. There you go. There you go. So we're going to be giving out, by the way, we also have later on, we're going to be giving out a copy of our book that Joe Orlando, myself, and Ellen wrote. It's called the 100 Greatest Baseball Autographs. We're going to be giving a free autograph copy of this. You go for the pretty ones.
Well, no, I'm just picking random people.
No, that's
I
fine.
see a
That's
kid
fine.
right there with a bee on his hat. Get up here. Wait, I see somebody waving. Oh, wow.
Yeah, give it to that kid. He's a nice-looking kid.
Okay, let's see.
We're also going to be giving away a copy of Baseball and Bubblegum, a great book about the 1952 Top Set.
See, I'm easier with the giveaways.
Yeah, that's too easy, though.
Yeah,
you
because
guys
he's
want
just
some?
going to, yeah.
Yeah, we've got
Yeah,
some
don't
other
worry
stuff.
about it.
All right, listen, I want to chat with you guys for a few minutes.
Okay.
Hold off a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, so, you know, there's a lot of young people here, and we've been harping on this for a long time. Last one. We've been harping on this for a long time for you young collectors. You know, it's really important, and I'm going to ask you guys to all chime in here. It's very, very, very important for you to have what we call a diversified portfolio. If you're going to buy modern and ultra-modern cards and you're going to flip them, good luck to you. You may make some money, you may not make some money. You should really consider, and we're talking to the young people here, really consider having a well-rounded collection, both vintage, modern, and ultra-modern. And you should be looking at the vintage cards almost like a stock portfolio. The blue chip stocks, the IBMs, the Procter & Gamble's. That's the base. Trip in here. What do you guys think? What's your opinion?
We're just letting you go.
No, seriously. What's
Oh.
your opinion?
What's my opinion on diversification?
Go.
So, if you had just invested in modern cards during the pandemic and you saw some great returns, and now you've started to see that reel back, and maybe you're sitting on some stuff that has gone down tremendously, just keep in mind vintage cards will always be the backbone. Would you agree, Joe?
100%. They're
And
antiques.
they're antiques. And Babe Ruth, I mean, I don't care who you pick, Jackie Robinson, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Ty Cobb. You can buy ones. You can buy authentics. You don't have to buy eights. You don't have to buy a T206 Wagner or a Babe Ruth that Joe thinks is rarer than the Baltimore News Ruth. We'll talk about it. Or, an Eddie Plank that's missing color. It's a 1-on-1, but there's no color.
Piedmont back.
Okay, Piedmont back though. So anyway, if you
No,
would have
you're
bought,
absolutely-
oh sorry, Brian.
No, go ahead.
If you would have bought even Babe Ruth Gowdy's graded one, you'd be, from 10 years ago, you'd be 5x now. Okay, so even just buying some vintage cards is a great idea to diversify. That would be my advice, to have that in your portfolio.
So, the funny thing is, over the last, Derek, Brian, what, 4 or 5 years, we've seen extraordinary pricing upticks with carb T206s, Babe Ruth Counties. And everyone says to me, those prices can't be real. Can the hobby maintain that? But does anyone ever sit back and think they've just been undervalued for so long?
Yeah.
And that's my opinion. This is catch up. This is all catching up to where they should have been years ago.
Yeah.
It's not that they're overvalued. I still think they're undervalued. They're antiques. Baseball's America's pastime. And I think there's a lot of room for more growth with the great vintage stars.
Brian?
Cards and memorabilia.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Derek and Joe. You know, when every one of us got into this, our focus was mostly on vintage cards. It really was. Obviously, modern cards, ultra modern cards have had great successes in the recent past. But vintage cards, just like Derek was saying, really have, stood the test of time, so to speak. And like they both said, whether the cards are in exceptionally high grade or low grade, we've seen incredible returns on this material. So I think Joe's on the right track with just saying how we maybe still are just scratching the surface. I mean, the prices, I remember in our auctions, we would, one of my writers would come to me and he's like, when are we going to sell the next $100,000 card?
Yeah.
And then now he says, hey, what do we have that's going to sell for over $1 million in this auction? So, and that was a couple years ago.
So, I guess the point being, it's not. Trust me, if you're gonna invest in modern and ultra modern cards, go for it, but just be careful, because you don't want to invest $25,000 or $10,000 in a player that's been around for 2 years, right? And he gets hurt, he gets whacked for performance-enhancing drugs. Anything can happen. He can tear an Achilles. So be careful about that. That's all we're saying. Have a balanced portfolio. Now, again, the chances of you buying a modern and ultra-modern card and flipping it, you can make yourself double your money, possibly. On the other hand, there could be an injury, and that card is worth nothing. I'm going to use Fernando Tatis as an example, or Zion Williamson. Zion Williamson is coming back a little bit, but do you remember how hot Fernando Tatis cards were? And then what happened? He got whacked for performing enhancing drugs, and his card is pretty much worthless now.
I don't know if is it worthless?
Well,
I don't know. But Zion still has a chance to come back. So if you're looking for an investment, you may also look and say, hey, this guy's got all the ability. He's got to get his weight under control. Hopefully he doesn't get injured, and he might be a good buy right now. Just diversify your investments. And then keep in mind, too, you have the opportunity here in the hobby. There is going to be so many more millions of people, hundreds of thousands of people entering this hobby. You guys have a head start. Educate yourself. Read books. That's what I did when I was a kid to get a head start. I am telling you, there are people in here. It's just going to keep growing. This is now that you now have fanatics that are saying they're going to start doing shows, maybe like Comic-Con conventions. I don't know whether they are, but if they do that, you're just, again, there's so much growth potential. I was always shocked that more people, everybody goes to games. They sell at games all the time, and I've always wondered, why are those people not coming to trade shows? Well, you're starting to see them come to trade shows now. So you have the opportunity. You're in here first. Educate yourselves, buy stuff, and make money.
All right, we are chatting with Brian Drent, Joe Tomasulo, and Derek Grady. You are watching the Great American Collectibles Show. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. We're back. As I said to you,
we're back.
Commercials,
Wait, we're back.
they all get put in later on.
We're back?
So we're back. There is a point that I want to run by you guys. I want to ask, and this is for our audience to think about also. I call them, we've talked about it, they're called manufactured rarities. Now, manufactured rarities seem to be the in thing today. I know they've been around for a long time, but in my opinion, be careful about investing in that one-of-one Luka Doncic Prism purple with the stain on it. It's a manufactured rarity. So that means that they're making it purposely a one-on-one, a one-of-one. A Babe Ruth card, a Babe Ruth Gaudi, what you see is what you get. A Honus Wagner T206 card, what you see is what you get. Those guys are dead. They're not coming back. Am I right?
Yeah.
You're
I wanna
100% right.
I want to get your
I mean,
opinions on that, you guys.
You know, everybody should collect cards that they enjoy, just as we've discussed about having a well-rounded portfolio. But definitely be careful. You know, understand that, like Tom's saying, one major injury, one PED, issue, and the amount of money you have tied up in a card can vastly change overnight.
Joe?
So, Tom, we've spoken about this on your radio show.
Yep,
Tom loves talking about manufactured rarity,
I do.
and it is rarity. I mean, if something's a one-of-one, it's a one-of-one. But not to be redundant, it all goes back to these players are still playing. Anything can happen, serious injury. So, quick example, and God willing, he'll be okay. Mike Trout has been going through a series of injuries the last couple of years. I mean, is that going to continue? Everyone called Mike Trout the next Mickey Mantle. Is Mike Trout going to play another 8 to 10 years? Or his knees going to hold up? And if they don't, he's not the next Mickey Mantle. And it eventually falls back on the value of his cards.
Mr. Wonderful?
What do you want me to answer? Oh, manufactured rarity?
Yeah.
Run. I mean, if I pulled a 101 out of one of these packs, I'm taking the money. I'm going to the highest bidder and taking the money because you don't know where the guy's going to end up. They haven't even played in the majors yet on some of these guys.
Exactly.
Okay, and the thing with Mike Trout being the next Mickey Mantle, let's let him catch Albert Pujols' numbers first. I know everybody loves Mike Trout, great player, keeps getting injured though. Look at Albert Pujols' numbers. Maybe his cards are undervalued.
By the way, if you have a question, just raise your hand. You can come up. We'll hand you the mic. You can ask the question to anybody on the panel. In the second hour, by the way, we have these three gentlemen are going to be leaving us. And we have Brian Dwyer from REA Auctions, Joe Orlando from Heritage Auctions will be joining us, and Mike Hefner from Leland's. They'll be joining us. He'll be joining us also.
So you guys got the booby prize. The next panel, you really have some
Exactly.
heavyweights.
So if you have a question, raise it. We'll get a mic to you. New Orleans Steve is out in the audience, so maybe Steve can help us out holding a mic if he has to. Are we keeping you awake?
Oh, he's...
You sure?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's going to hang himself if he can
just
listening
want to
to
make
us.
sure. Okay, another trivia. What are we going to give away? What do you got?
Packs?
All right, a couple of more packs.
Packs.
2 packs for this answer.
2 packs.
Who has... We didn't even give it out yet.
Brian, that was great. Brian
Okay.
just wanted to hit somebody in the face with a pack. I mean, that's what he was waiting to do. He did it. Perfect.
All right, here's one.
never
Who
saw it
has the
coming.
most RBIs in a single... This is a tough one. World Series. Who has the most
in the World
RBIs
Series.
in a single World Series game? Single World Series. It's a tough one. Most
Hurry up,
RBI,
check on your phones,
and it's
look
not
it up.
RBIs. It's RBI.
RBI.
Right. The
Oh,
most
whatever.
RBI in a World Series.
For 2
Who-
packs.
For 2 packs.
2 packs.
Who? Wrong. Anybody else?
Well, that dude right there is...
Wrong. Come on. Who has the most
Google it.
RBIs in a single World Series? Who? Absolutely wrong. Anybody else? Close, but no cigar. No. You're
Somebody
killing me.
use your
You're killing
phone
me.
and Google it.
Most RBI in a single World Series. According to this, I don't think.
If
it's
you
on-
have the wrong answer,
No.
you're fired. Seriously,
Oh.
these are your questions.
No, I'm going to tell you the answer.
know, it's
According
a
to
guess.
this, and this is Baseball Reference, Lou Gehrig. He said Lou Gehrig right there. Okay, come on and get it.
Who was it?
Lou Gehrig. Lou
Good
Gehrig.
job. Good man. Good man. I have no idea.
Hey, if you
oh, wait
open
a
the
second.
pack and you get
1928.
anything good, let us know.
28. Yep. Okay. Here's another one. Who has the most home runs? This is an easy one. Who has the most home runs in a single World Series? Who? Wrong. Who has the most home runs in a single World Series? No, you already won.
He said Otani.
Who? Ernie Banks. Wrong.
He never played in the World Series.
Reggie Jackson right there.
Good job.
All right.
He hit
Another
31
topic I
games.
want to bring up with you gentlemen that is warm and dear to my heart that seems, again, I could get in trouble for this, seems to have crashed and burned. It's called fractional buying.
Sure.
Let's talk about fractional buying. A year ago at this time, fractional buying was like the big thing. Buy a piece of a Honus Wagner card, we'll stick it in a vault for you, you'll never be able to touch it or see it, and you own a piece of it. It seems as though fractional buying has collapsed. Ryan, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think fractional buying was an interesting concept. It's obviously worked in other industries, other walks of life. But in this business, I mean, we collect because we enjoy it. We're passionate about the material. You want to have the material in your possession. I think with fractional ownership, you don't take possession of the material. You can't enjoy it the same. And in that same fashion, I just think when we were coming out of the pandemic in 2022, the market was incredibly white hot. Fractional ownership, I think, made sense at that point. Things have seemed to come back just a little bit, become a bit more of the norm. And fractional ownership and fractional platforms just don't seem to have the grasp that they were enjoying a year ago.
Joe?
2 points on that. And guys, correct me if I'm wrong. When they started fractional buying,
You're wrong. Oh.
wasn't even out of the starting gate.
I just want to make sure they wake up out there. I mean, that's all.
So
'cause
when
they're
they
bored.
started fractional buying, 95% of the emphasis was on modern. You didn't see a lot of fractional buying
Amazing.
with vintage cards. And I don't know what really drove.
Maybe not the supply that was needed.
I don't know what drove that decision, but then modern takes a little hit, and fractional just starts going downhill. The second thing is Brian hit the nail right on the head. So I love my collection. I love buying vintage cards.
There is nobody that loves their collection more than Joe Tomasulo, I promise you that. Go see him at the Memory Lane booth, and he will show you every blessed piece he has and tell you his story and see if the guards will let you stay overnight, and you'll be here all night with him. Go ahead.
And
Yeah.
to that point, Brian mentioned, you can't hold the piece in your hand. So I could take my money and go buy Microsoft stock or whatever. Who cares about having a piece of stock? I love value that's passion. And collecting vintage memorabilia is a passionate hobby, and you can hold it, own it,
Did he leave?
and make a lot of money on it. So to me, you get the best of everything. So
There was a young kid that answered Bobby Richardson. Did he leave? Is he coming back? Send him up here, because you know something? Baseball Reference is wrong. Hall of Fame is right. It was Bobby Richardson and not Lou Gehrig. Now, I went by Baseball Reference, which is my Bible. There he is right
You
here.
can't
Give him 2 packs.
ask a trivia question
Give him
and give
2
the wrong
packs.
answer. Wait, I am not getting paid enough money to be up
All
here.
right, enjoy him. All right, we have
did
another
have-
special. What? It was an honest mistake. It was baseball
You
reference.
probably
What does that
read it
say?
wrong. Baseball Reference doesn't have wrong information. You read it wrong.
Did I? Okay.
Jesus Christ.
All right, so this gentleman to my left, we consider him probably the foremost Mickey Mantle collector in the country. Steve Lane, an attorney from New Orleans. We call him New Orleans Steve. And he actually presented me with a wonderful present before the show. He gave me...
Like
you
a
know
holiday
I'm a
fruitcake?
martini drinker. You know I'm a martini drinker. He gave me a Mickey Mantle martini glass, and I made a promise on the air that if the Yankees make the playoffs, I will have my nightly martini in that freaking martini glass the entire time they're in the playoffs.
I thought on your wish list was like a Liberace signed 8x10.
I have one.
Okay, figure. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Steve has a new book out. It's called Mickey Mantle, A Life in Memorabilia, the Steve Lane Collection. This book, you can buy it where?
You can get it at themickeymantle.com or at the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown.
Now, this is there's no well, you're not making any money on this.
No, all the profits go to a charity that will be chosen by the Mantle family.
This is a wonderful compilation of Steve's personal collection. That
There's a
is
picture of
absolutely
me in there, too.
mind-boggling. As a matter of fact, if you go over to the Heritage booth, there are a couple of items that are on display at the Heritage auction booth. Why don't you tell us about your personal favorites? Your personal favorites in this book.
All right, well, my personal favorites are, and I've got a lot of my collection from the three gentlemen that are sitting here.
This man has spent a tremendous amount of money with these three people. And that's why they all drive, Corvettes and Mercedes.
X5 BMW.
And it really upset my daughter because it reduces her inheritance. But what are you gonna do? I have the very first baseball that Mickey Mantle ever signed. I got that from Brian Drent at the end on Mile High.
I remember that, Brian.
Wasn't that a great ball?
That was a great ball. As a matter of fact, Joe Tomasulo told me about it. I ran over there, and he showed me the ball. It was like, are you kidding me?
Steve.
How old was Mickey when he signed that?
Mantle was 18 years old. He was playing for the Independence Yankees, and his roommate won his first game, and Mantle said, "Flip me the ball." So he flipped Mantle the ball. Mantle signed it, wrote on it, "My first pro win." Mantle flips the ball back to his roommate. Roommate says, "Why are you signing my ball?" And Mantle says, "'Cause someday I'm going to be famous." So that's the story behind the first signed Mickey Mantle baseball. Also have, for those of you who saw Mickey Mantle play, he hit his next to last home run off of Denny McLain in 1968, where Denny McLain actually told Mantle what pitch he was going to throw him so that Mantle could hit a home run. I have that baseball.
Could have went for more.
And I have Mickey Mantle's 1963 game-used glove. It's one of only 3 Mantle gloves that exist from his prime. And I got that directly from the Mantle family. And I basically traced Mickey Mantle's life from 1931 to his death. I have the very first Mickey Mantle autograph that exists when he was 8 years old in 4th grade. So for those of you who are Yankee fans, who are Mantle fans,
All 2 of you.
who are baseball historians, this book is basically a museum tour in a book. It's got everything about Mickey Mantle you would possibly
Now-
want to know.
Being from Boston, as much as I hate the Yankees, I have to say this is really a great book.
Well, thank you.
You did well. And that, trust me, that's as much of a compliment as you're ever going to get from me. Now, you had an incident, but I'd like to talk about it generally in the hobby. Is that okay? Sure. All right. This has to be addressed. We've talked about it on the show many, many times. it seems as though because of the uptick in what's happened in the hobby and how well the hobby is doing, that goes hand in hand with an uptick in crime, an uptick in, breaking and entering into card shops, robberies. We need to talk about that because it seems as though it's really becoming a problem. This gentleman, I'm going to use him as an example, and then I want to get your opinions on it. This gentleman has a few items up for auction, sent them via FedEx to this gentleman, and how many of them were stolen?
They're going to think I stole the items now. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
They're going to implicate me.
They should.
Yeah.
How many were stolen?
I sent Derek at Heritage 8 items. When I dropped the box off at FedEx, the box weighed 15 pounds. When it arrived in Dallas, it weighed 6 pounds. They had taken 4. Somebody slid open the box, took out 4 of the 8 items, and then delivered it.
Now, you take that, and you take, in Sports Collectors Daily, our good friend Rich Miller, every single week there is an article about some card shop somewhere in the country being broken into. As a matter of fact, just recently, it was an old-timer and his wife. Didn't they melt down Yogi Berra's his World Series rings, right? So how do we police that, Brian? What do you guys do for security, like personally?
Man, I'll tell you, I don't know how we police it, but I do know that it's incredibly unfortunate what happened to Steve and the loss of the items, but I'm sure somehow, some way we'll get those back and get them back to Steve. In regards to the crime that's going on with, within our hobby, I think it's a synopsis of the crime that's going on in our country.
Oh, yeah.
One thing that's become abundantly clear is the value of the material that we're selling has increased so rapidly that it's unfortunately brought in incredibly unscrupulous people. And if you own a brick and mortar card shop, you really have to protect yourself. I think you need cameras. I wouldn't open a shop these days without bars on the windows. I really wouldn't. And I don't even know if that prevents everything. So I think a lot of things need to be done behind the scenes after a theft, where we communicate what was taken, solicit it within the hobby, so we can be on the watch for items that we know were taken.
Wait. Joe, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Where do you want us to speak to?
Brian.
Don't commit crime.
Joe.
Okay. Anybody
Brian.
out there? Don't be a criminal. It's bad for the hobby.
What do you guys do for security?
Tom, it's just a microcosm of the crime across the country.
Yeah.
Where there's money to be made, there's treachery, there's crime. Okay? Whether it's corporate America, sports memorabilia, you see what's going on in the cities in our country. So, what's going to stop it from spreading to our industry?
You know what? But I'll tell you this, and there is crime and it is a problem, but it's maybe a small percentage. I can tell you I've been collecting for 62 years, and I practiced law for 44 years, and there's very few people that you can do business with a handshake. The 4 people sitting to my right, you can deal with them with a handshake, and with a lot of the people here. So you ought to feel comfortable with these guys and the other people you're dealing with. Now I know, Tom, you want me to give out some of these books.
Before
so
Paul,
let me just get to it. I got 3 books to give out. I'm going to handle it all in one question because I know my time is limited.
You're going to give one person 3 books?
No, just relax. Here's the question. Mickey Mantle won the Most Valuable Player Award 3 times. Somebody give me one of the 3 years. All right, that's one book.
1956 is one. We got 2 more. 58?
57 is another. So that's 2.
58?
One more year. No, but you're getting close. Keep going up.
We have one more. Right here, this gentleman, 68.
No.
68, he couldn't even walk.
No.
Hold on, right there.
Wait, did somebody say, wait, what did I hear? Yeah, who said 62? Whoever
60,
said,
oh, that guy
whoever-
said
whoever
62.
Said 62.
All right, good.
Come up and get
Come on
your
up and
books.
get your books. You each win a book. This is are they signed?
No, but I'll sign them when
He'll
I get
sign
up
them
the
for you.
stage.
He'll charge you $50.
Yeah, that'll reduce it by reduce the value by at least $5.
Steve, thank you so much.
All right.
How about a nice hand for Steve Lane? All right, we're going to bring another gentleman up here
Can
with
we get
us.
some packs out?
Paul,
can we
come
get
on
some
up.
packs out? Hey, ding
What?
dong.
What?
Can we just give some packs out?
Yeah, of course. We got
Yeah,
time. Can I flip one?
You're gonna damage the cards when you flip them, you
Watch.
moron.
You be careful.
See? Oh wait, look what I did.
It's
I
in the
threw
wrist.
it. They caught
It's
it.
in the wrist.
No, you don't do it right.
It is
Okay,
in the
you don't
wrist,
have to take
right?
their head off.
That's the way I used to play when I
Okay.
was a kid. I used to kick ass on my block.
Oh, see what happens?
Hold a few.
Oh wait, we actually have more than 8 people here. I like this. We're taking this on the road.
Look at Lee. Lee's he just tackled somebody. Lee's tackling
Well, Lee
someone.
bought the packs to give
Oh,
away.
he did. All right,
Oh
here.
wow.
It's called In the Wrist.
Oh, it's raining.
You ready? All right.
Oh.
Hold off.
Hold off.
Well, we got a few more minutes. All right, listen. We've got a few more minutes, about 10 minutes. And the gentleman to my left, I wanted to bring in because this guy represents all of the small neighborhood card shops in the country. His name
CAD.
is Paul Borges.
CAD shops.
Paul Borges from PB Collectibles in Newport, Rhode Island. There's been a resurgence across the country of small mom and pop card shops reopening and flourishing. But you've been around now for how long, Paul?
We've had the shop going on our 5th year, but I've been around this for about 50.
So what are you seeing as as your neighborhood card shop? What are you seeing?
I think there's a lot of, as you can see, there's lots of excitement amongst the older crowd for the vintage stuff, but I see things, there's tons of excitement here. It's the same thing. We have it a little bit at the shop, so we're creating that buzz.
All right, listen, before we continue, we're going to take a quick break. You are watching the Great American Collectibles Show. We are broadcasting from the National. This is the first hour. The second hour will be next week. And you can watch us on YouTube or on WCAP The Valley up in Massachusetts, Facebook, all of these great things. So hang in there. We'll be right back. We're back. Not back, huh?
It's like magic.
Isn't it magic?
We're back.
All right, we are chatting with Paul Borges from PB Collectibles. So, Paul, Rhode Island, have you seen an influx in new interest in card shops?
Without question, you see it all the time with people coming into the shop, asking questions, what does it take to be doing this? I have some friends, a friend who's an attorney, always busts my chops, like he's got to go to court. You get to go to a card shop and sit and do something that you love. Not that he hasn't done well as being an attorney, but after a while. So dealing with cards and so forth with the public, it's been awesome. So yes, definitely a lot of people involved.
Brian, I'm going to ask you now. Your business, you've been around for a long time.
You're
It
dating.
shows.
I mean, like
it shows.
I mean,
It's
like
starting
seriously.
to
I mean, you were there when you dealt directly with Ruth. We
I was
know
there
that.
when the T206s
Right.
were issued.
What are you seeing as product that's coming in? Is it pretty much the same? Cards, memorabilia, modern, vintage. What are you seeing as a auction house?
Yeah, no, I would say it's definitely it's a lot of the same. I mean, obviously graded cards, sets, large groups. We've gotten more into Type 1 photos. We wrote a book on Marshall Fogel's Type 1 photo collection, so I think that's helped our consignments of Type 1 photos. We've got some great game used material, so it's a little bit of everything, but the backbone probably is and always will be graded cards.
Joe, same thing?
Absolutely, and unopened wax is amazing.
Yeah,
I
it is.
never thought I would
Yeah,
see.
I mean, I haven't. I'm just learning to wrap my arms around that stuff. I mean, it's like, what's going? I mean, it's unbelievable.
My issue is if I owned it, I would want to open it.
Exactly. Chico, what about you?
What's Chico?
I mean,
I was born in Mexico. I clearly look. I mean, no. Where?
What are you seeing in terms of what's coming into Heritage? Besides, Honus Wagner's and, PSA 9 or SGC 9 mantles. What are you seeing? An influx in anything in particular?
No, I mean, we get, everything. Mostly cards, but a lot of championship rings, jerseys, game used bats. Unopened wax, I think we all get excited. I know Brian had some unopened wax finds, and it's just so much fun when you get this vintage wax. It really goes for, it's through the roof when you get it. It's just great stuff. So we want Brian not to get any more finds of those and just give them to Heritage, but he's done well getting that stuff.
Paul, what about you? What are you seeing coming in?
Actually, believe it or not, a lot of vintage, mostly a lot of 50s, 60s, that type stuff, more on the lower grade end, but seeing I try to stock mostly more vintage, like I said, 50s, 60s, 70s, so we're getting a lot of that type of stuff, which is really good.
Of the audience right here, how many of you folks collect more cards than memorabilia? How many collect cards primarily? How many collect memorabilia primarily? So that's a pretty good mix. How many collect vintage memorabilia? So how many collect modern memorabilia? So that's pretty
How many are daydreaming versus listening to the show? See? All right. Everybody that answered that correctly, come get a pack. Anybody want a pack?
You know what's funny, though, is that a lot of the young kids are starting to get into the vintage side, trying to trade their cards up and get into the vintage market as well.
You want basketball?
Definitely.
Wait.
All right,
Did
listen.
you guys even answer anything? Okay.
What do we have left? Do we have anything
No,
left?
I've given them all away. Here, wait. No, here. Wait,
all right, we're just about out of time anyway.
We are?
Yeah.
How about your cheap T-shirts?
No, well, we're
going to
give some. What do you mean? First of all,
how about your book? What's the book? Is this like the grand prize?
let me tell. No, that'll be later on. These were made by the Petrocelli Marketing Company. I just want you to know that.
Okay. Anybody going to wear the shirt if you get one?
I can't throw that far.
Are you going to wear the shirt? You guys going to wear a shirt? Give one to the girls over there. Over there.
Thank you very much.
The pack. Whoop. There you go.
Couple more.
Nice catch.
You're a Cubs fan, man. I like the Cubs.
Tom, give me your car keys.
There we are. All right, listen, thank you all for showing up. Stick around. We're going to do the next hour in about 35 seconds. Brian Drent, thank you very much. Mile High Card Company, check out his booth. You're going to see the Wagner. It's being displayed.
Absolutely.
Joe Tomasulo from Memory Lane Auctions. Joe, we love you. You know that. And Mr. Wonderful here, Derek Grady from Heritage Auctions. Stop by the Heritage booth. And Paul, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to now. All right, now get out of here, the four of you. All right. My next crew, come on up. We've got
We got Brian Dwyer from REA. We got Joe Orlando from Heritage Auctions.
From Heritage. And
Mike
Mr. Hefner. Come on
Hefner.
up, you guys. Mike Hefner from Leland's. And we're also going to chat right now, as soon as they come on board, the three gentlemen that are taking over this amazing national and are going to be running it starting right after this one. Come on up, guys. Oh, now they're kibitzing. Joe Drellick. It's like old home week. Nice to see you. Grab a seat. You guys can all talk. Probably just hang one sec. Just grab a seat, you guys. All right, I am really, really pleased. I guess, no, we don't have to take a break. In a couple of minutes, Hef, Joe Orlando, and Brian Dwyer are going to be joining us. Three great guys. But right now, we had Mr. Brogy on earlier. I'd like you guys. You don't have a mic. Why don't you move that mic there?
Oh, okay.
Here you go. These three gentlemen are the guys that are taking what you see here today into the next level. I think that's fair enough to say, Joe, right?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, so why don't you
Absolutely.
introduce yourself and introduce your partners?
Sure. My name is Joe Drellick. To the left of me is Jimmy Ryan. To the right of me is Brian Capola. We're currently involved in some of the large East Coast shows you might attend or know about. The New York City White Plains show, the Hofstra show, the Philly show, and CSA shows.
All right, so I'm going to ask you guys, starting with Brian, right?
Yep.
Brian, starting with you, what do you envision? I mean, where it's at right now is crazy good. What do you envision next year and going forward with this unbelievable national? You're going to talk into that.
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, this is we've hit a new level here this weekend. So I mean, how do you build on it? I mean, you obviously just continue to do what you're doing, ripping wax and all this live breaking and streaming and the amount of impressions, the millions and millions and millions of impressions that are out there, just replicating over and over is just. I mean, that's the difference. That's a big piece of all this.
Jimmy, I'm going to ask you now. So, I mean, you don't plan this thing in a weekend. You guys have been working for how long together, just tweaking kind of what's here, but looking at next year's. How long have you guys been working at this?
We've been working on this for almost 18 months now. Just getting set up to run forward for Cleveland for next year. We hope everybody joins us next year out in Cleveland in 2024. But it's been an 18-month project to get us to this point, to prepare us. So we're ready to run.
Joe, you mentioned that next year's Cleveland. The year after is Chicago again, correct? But then the third year, you're having a kind of a contest. Why don't you tell our listeners and viewers about it?
Sure. So basically, the National has grown so large that it needs to be booked at least 3 years out. And so in order to do that, we need larger and larger locations each year. So sort of the way that process works, as to Tom's point, the next 2 years are already decided. Cleveland at the IX Center, which is located right near the airport. The following year, Chicago. And 2026 is now in a stage of voting. So the way that process works, our management team vets out locations all across the United States. We started out with 27 cities and narrowed it down to 3. The way that process works is the criteria that is required is we need buildings that are a minimum of 500,000 square feet. Now, if you do a Google search and you look up convention centers in major cities that are 500,000 square feet, your list gets short really quick. But with having those 27 choices, we did have all areas of the country covered. East Coast, West Coast, center of the country. And so from that process, we look into things like hotels, costs of hotels, safety, security, transportation, airport proximity. And then we narrow that down and we turn that over to the board of directors of the National, and they give a few choices, and then at that point, the dealers here that you meet and walk around and see will vote. They'll be picking their booths and their spaces for the following year and placing a vote on those 3 city choices. And that's how we come up with the location choice for the cities for the National.
I have been begging these gentlemen to think about Fenway Park in Boston. I can't pull it off.
It's just too small, Tom.
It's just too
Not
small.
going to fit.
It is. Just can't pull it off. You guys are killing me. Joe, I'm going to ask this to the three of you. There has been a tremendous change in the National with the inception of technology. I mean, there are companies here that 10 years ago nobody ever heard of. But now, I mean, they've become part of the fabric of what's happening in the National. Is more of that going to happen as time goes on?
Yeah, I think that first of all, it's dealers and collectors first. But what we've done is expanded the dealer and collector base. It's obvious with the diversity that's here that the demand is here. And it's great to see the community continue to grow in all aspects. I mean, we've spent the last 4 days walking the floor and introducing ourselves to people that we've never met before. To Tom's point, a few short years ago, we knew probably better than 50, 60% of the people on the floor. And now we're getting introduced to people constantly all day long. So it's fantastic, and all of these different companies that you see are really to be commended for the wonderful jobs that they've done, elevating themselves, introducing new products, new advances to our hobby and our collections. But ultimately, it is about the collecting and the cards. So we want to also keep that first and foremost while integrating more advancements, more things that people want to see. And I think that has a way of self-vetting itself, things that are brought into the space maybe that aren't quite there yet will vet themselves out, and the things that are doing great I would imagine are going to continue to grow.
One of the things we're going to be doing on the show, and keep this in mind because I know a lot of you folks are watching the show, these three gentlemen are going to be appearing on the show over the course of the year many times so that we can keep you guys updated on what the 2024 National is going to look like. Between the three of you, I know that you guys can come on, keep you guys abreast as to what's going on, and if there's any new wrinkles, you'll be the first to hear about it from our show. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we want to be transparent and open in the processes and share all new exciting information. So yeah, we're happy to do that, and we thank you all for coming very much, because the reason that we're here is because you all are here, and so we'll continue to try to make the show better and better each year. We're going to be very accessible and open to suggestions, and a lot of that stuff will be unveiled in the next few months where you'll be able to reach out to the National, make suggestions, give us a punch list to work from as well, along with our own ideas. So thank you all.
How about a nice round of applause for Joe, Jimmy, and Brian? These are the gentlemen that are now in charge of this organization. Thank you, guys. Take care. Joe, I'll see you. Thank you. Be good, Jimmy. All right, boys, come on up. Okay, I didn't know that. All right, so now we've got the A team coming on. We had the B team on in the first hour. Trust me, it was definitely. Joe, you can sit here, and Brian sit here. Hef, you can sit right there. I am so proud. These three guys, I don't even know how to say it, but they have been a part of the fabric of this National for many, many years. The three of them, except for Orlando, the three of them have all made indelible marks, quite frankly. And I'm not just saying this because these are my friends, and they are. But these guys have made indelible marks in the hobby. I mean, they're three of, I call them the Hall of Famers. Brian Dwyer from REA Auctions, Joe Orlando, former CEO and president of PSA and Collectors Universe, now executive vice president of Heritage Auctions, and Mike Hefner, president, CEO, director of facilities, you name it, for Leland's Auction House. How about a nice round of applause? All right, I'm going to, first thing I'm going to do is I want to talk about your individual auctions, what's going on. Hef, you have one going on right now, and you have to talk right into this. Tell us about your current auction.
How close?
There you go.
Now, look what he did.
Oh, there you go.
How comes I have a knife beside my microphone? Is there a reason?
Good point.
We have
you
an
guys
auction.
want some water? Can you grab a couple of bottles of water? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Hef.
We have an auction ending. I think it's next Saturday.
How you doing?
And it's got some great stuff in it. I don't even know everything that's in there. There's so much stuff in it. But 1,500 lots. It ends next Saturday. We have the catalogs available for free up at the front, and it's just one of so many. Trying to count up the auctions that I've done, or Leland's has done in the last several decades, and I can't even count them. I lost track of the catalogs, so they all sort of blend together now, and it's hard for me to pinpoint specific items. People bring stuff up to consign it or to show it to me, and they say, I got this out of your auction. and I forget because it just we've handled so much stuff, and it's like this auction going on now. It's just one of many, and the stuff just seems to keep coming out, and it's like every day is a new day and new stuff.
You have a couple of signature pieces in the auction. Is there anything you want to highlight?
As far as we have a really rare Paley rookie card that's going to sell for several $100,000. We have some really neat game used stuff. We have some Pittsburgh Steelers shirts in there, some of which came right from the team. There's a little bit. The reason that I think our auction is appealing to a lot of people is that we have something for everybody. You don't have to be out there and have $1 million credit line. You can buy something in our auction for $200. You can buy something in our auction for $500. You can buy something for $100,000. So we have so many different pieces from so many different sports, so many different time periods. Like there's something for everyone, which I think people kind of like.
I have my eye on a piece. My wife is going to shoot me because I promised her, but there's a Campanella contract that I'm keeping my eye on. That's a nice piece.
Oh yeah,
that's
I
a
definitely
really nice
like
piece.
that.
1952 Roy Campanella.
1952, yes.
Contract.
Yes.
I'm kind of into that because of this guy and because of a few others. I've kind of gotten away from the cards, and I'm really, really getting into really good, funky memorabilia. I'm really enjoying it.
The memorabilia to me, as you know, has always been so much more fun than the cards. Not to put the cards down, but because the cards are the basis of our industry. If it wouldn't be for the cards, there wouldn't be memorabilia. But the memorabilia is a lot more fun to me than the cards, and it's also something that, it's a lot of these cards are 101, 105, but a lot of this memorabilia is also 101. More so than the cards. It's so rare, and I think people are beginning to catch on to that.
Good. Joe, I was at your, forget it. You guys, some of the stuff you guys have. Tell us about your auction, what's coming down, what you have. Your partner in crime brought the mantle card up here with us. But Heritage has some other amazing things. Why don't you tell us about some of them?
Yeah, so at Heritage, we have auctions every week and every month, but twice a year we do what is called our platinum sale. We do it in February, we do it in August, and this is the auction that for us it kind of has the most cachet around it. So that's what we have on display at the show. A handful of the items that are standouts. Since Derek already showed the mantle, how about the 1958 mantle jersey, pinstripe home jersey that has been photo matched to several games, which is great because on the pinstripes it allows you to do that much more easily than jerseys that don't have those type of markings. We've got a 1998 photo match Michael Jordan jersey from a playoff run that year, Last Dance. And as Mike said, it's like there's something for everyone. Those are deep 6 and 7 figure type items, but then we also have items that are, 10,000, 5,000. One of the coolest items I think that is very newsworthy is we have a Shohei Ohtani bat from his first MVP season, because unless Shohei Ohtani falls off the face of the earth this year, I think he's a shoo-in for his second MVP. But from his first MVP in 2021, we have a bat that has been photo matched to 7 home runs, which is really rare because these, in the current day and age, players, they go through bats much more quickly. So to be able to photo match a bat to that many home runs for that long of a stretch, that bat is estimated to go well above $100,000, which is amazing for a current player. So we got a little bit of everything, but the booth, as you said, it's very impressive.
Brian?
We have an auction going on live now through August 13th. RobertEdwardAuctions.com. We have 3,000 lots, and I think we're most proud of everything, but 2 that are really catching people's eye here at the show. We're at booth 327 in the corporate area. We've got a newly discovered Joe Doyle T206, which I know is near and dear to Tom's
I saw
heart.
that. Again, she starts yelling at me.
You need it for your set.
Yeah, are you kidding?
Only the 10th one found. This one's the highest graded. And then keeping in the vein of memorabilia and photo matching, we've got a photo matched 1923 Babe Ruth bat that is matched to a game in which he hit a home run. So that is resolution photo matching, guys. Made that match. It's a very significant piece. But keeping with the theme, we have items that are starting at $50 as well. And if I can I touch on the acquisition?
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I was going to ask you to. Absolutely.
All right. So 2 weeks ago, we announced the acquisition of Huggins & Scott Auctions. So Huggins & Scott, great legacy brand, been in business for more than 30 years in the Baltimore, D.C. area. They're now going to be a subsidiary company of Robert Edward Auctions. And they have an auction going on now through next Thursday. Very wide selection of cards and memorabilia, autographs. So like these guys said, you don't have to have $1 million budget, but you can find something that's going to fit in with your collection.
You know, I want to touch upon something with the three of you that we touched upon. Again, this is a 2-hour show. The first hour was what we broadcast last week, so this is over a period of 2 weeks. I want to ask you guys the same question that I asked the panel of Mo, Larry, and Curly in the first hour. I think personally, and we've all talked about it, Brian, we've talked about it ad nauseum, for the young collectors out there, you know, it's okay to speculate. It's okay to speculate. It's okay to, you know, to buy that modern and ultra modern card if you want, roll the dice and try to flip it, and if you make a lot of money, God bless you. On the other hand, you could get burned pretty bad. Point being is, for the young collectors out there, anybody that's watching or listening on the radio, it's really important to have a very well-balanced portfolio. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is with vintage cards, modern, and if you want to throw some ultra-modern cards in there. I mean, the vintage cards, we've always talked about it, Joe, and have almost like blue chip stocks. You have your Procter & Gamble, you have your GE, you have your IBM. That's the basis. And then if you want to speculate with those other stocks, I want to call them, you're welcome to do that. Hef, your thoughts on that?
Well, it's I think you want to buy if you're putting together a portfolio, and I hate to even use that word portfolio, because people should buy things because they love them, because they want to enjoy them. If they go up in value, that's just an added bonus. So, as far as portfolio, I look at it like, I don't know much about the modern, but I know enough. We had a boom on the modern stuff. A lot of new money came in, bought the modern stuff. Now the modern stuff shot up astronomically, and now the modern stuff has come down at almost the same rate. A lot of that new blood that came into the hobby is disenchanted with the modern, but it also exposed all those people to the vintage stuff. So I feel like a lot of the guys that are stopped buying the modern stuff now are transferring over to the vintage. But I always look at the names that roll off the tip of your tongue. It's the Babe Ruth. Even if it's a 33 Gaudy in poor condition, it was worth $500 10 years ago. Now it's worth $5,000. So even if you don't, you can't afford hundreds of thousands for a PSA 8 for a Cobb, Ruth, Gehrig, Mantle, whatever it might be, I think that buying the names and the really prominent players' cards and memorabilia is important. And there's something out there for every person. But as far as you were saying, Tom, about spreading things out, that's where the memorabilia also comes into play, because I think people can have fun with memorabilia and they can add that to their so-called portfolios also. And now that they're grading companies, PSA grading bats, numerous companies, resolution matching jerseys, people can have the comfort level that they need to have to spend the money on game used equipment. So it's just like cards, and it's easier for people to understand. So,
Brian, I was going to say,
balance.
Brian, you've mentioned in the past, you've said it on the show, Babe Ruth's not coming back. Ty Cobb is not coming back. Those guys are dead. Those cards are finite cards. But then, you've got the Fernando Tatis Purple Prism with the gravy stain on it, 1 of 1, the manufactured rarity. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I always advocate that people collect what they like. Who am I to say that modern's not where you should be putting your money? But when it comes to modern, I tell people, Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle, their cards, we can see what they did during war. We can see what they did during financial turmoil. We can see what they did during political unrest or stuff that's going on in the U.S., stuff that's going on abroad. You have to go in a little bit eyes wide open with modern, and you have to know that it doesn't have that extensive track record like vintage. But, like Mike said, the guys' names should roll off your tongue. And right now, Ohtani and Trout and those guys, those are the names
No
that
doubt.
everybody's banking on being very significant in the future. So collect what you like.
No, I agree. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, first I'm going to echo everything Brian and Mike said because they said it very well. I think, I'm going to date myself here. So speculating, there's nothing wrong with it, but it was so different. So when I was growing up and collecting in the 1980s, I could do things like buy 800 Mark McGwire rookies for a nickel. You can't do that anymore because now, before these guys ever step foot on a court or foot on a field, when they're drafted and they have cards made of them, they're worth 10,000, 50,000, 100,000.
Exactly.
So it's really about risk level. The risks are much greater now than compared to in the 80s and the 90s, where you could do it and have a little fun, but you weren't putting yourself at risk the way it is now. And now back in those days, some guys would buy 1,000 rookies of a certain player. Sometimes they were Cal Ripken Jr. Sometimes they turned out to be Greg Jeffries. No offense to Greg Jeffries fans, but it was at a much, much lower level in terms of the financial aspect of it.
I mean, so basically then, what I think, correct me if I'm wrong, what you guys are saying is there's nothing wrong with buying modern cards or ultra-modern cards, but just spend wisely, I guess. Spend wisely.
Yeah, and the way that I view modern sometimes is that it's a gateway for people. 2003, I came to my first national. I've been to 18 of them since. I collected very different things in 2003, but now I'm Ruth and Cobb and Wagner and Gehrig and Mantle and guys like that. So, however you come into the hobby, I'm all for it, and maybe your tastes change and maybe they don't.
We are chatting with Mike Hefner from Leland's, Joe Orlando from Heritage, and Brian Dwyer from REA Auctions. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. We're back. It's called technology. Our crack staff, they interject the commercials later. All right, so let's get back. I want to ask your opinion. Listen, Joe, I mean, you were president of PSA for a long time. Third-party grading now seems to be changing a little bit. There are more companies, but I think, and I'm going to ask you this first, because I think you once said to me, there's always been a lot of companies popping up and then disappearing. What is your whole take on third-party grading now? Is it different than when you were president of PSA? And do you see it changing going forward?
Oh boy! Thank you for putting me on the spot, Tom.
Loaded question.
I figured, what the hell, right?
So again, for the Brian and Mike remember this. So we've seen this movie before. So in the 1998 to 2001 time period, you had the .com boom, the emergence of platforms such as eBay, the internet. You had McGwire and Sosa, home run chase. You had Tiger Woods emerging and having his first Upper Deck card. That was the last time we saw a pretty big surge in the market. And as a result of that, there were probably 36 grading services that popped up overnight at that time.
Wow.
So all I'll say is this, because we'll be here all week, if you really want me to answer this question, is that, look, it's about brand. I mean, there's a lot of technology coming into the industry, a lot of change, a lot of growth, but at the end of the day, it's what do collectors want to build their collections around? What's the brand that they want to associate with? So it is a pretty big mountain to climb for some of the newer companies, and there's some very impressive booths here, some of the newer companies coming in. But it's about, it's very buyer, very collector driven. And as a collector myself, like Brian and Mike, we love uniformity. So if a collector is building their collection around a particular brand, that's a pretty big barrier to entry for newer companies. It doesn't mean that things don't change over time, but that would be the one thing that I would sort of leave the audience with, is that it's about brand recognition, because when you buy something, and you go to trade it or resell it at some point, you want to make sure that you have the sort of widest market, the largest market available to you, so you have the most demand for that item. So a lot of change going on, but I guess I'll leave it.
No,
I'll
that's
leave
good.
it there.
That's very good. Hef, what are you seeing? I mean, how important is third-party grading today in the market?
I think I was walking around. I didn't get a whole lot of chance to walk around here, but I was just thinking about the changes that occurred at the National. I've been doing them since the 80s, I guess. I am really old, like you, Tom.
Not as old as I am.
But I was just thinking about the changes and the third-party grading and authentication have really they've cleaned up the hobby a lot, because I used to walk around the National during the 90s and I would see all sorts of cards that were messed with and autographs that were fake, and you name it. There was a lot of shenanigans going on. And you know what? The third-party grading and authentication, to me, the biggest impact that they made on the hobby was cleaning it up. I didn't like it at first. I was a naysayer. I liked the old way of doing things. You learn the business, you learn from experience, you buy and sell, you make mistakes. But I was wrong, and this thing would probably be, if it wouldn't be for the third-party grading and authentication, this show right now, we probably have about half the people and half the dealers here. The third-party grading and authentication have really made a big difference, and the companies that are coming in and going out, those are the ones that should come in and go out. The guys that are sticking around are the guys who are making the least mistakes and who are adding the most value to the product.
Good points. Brian?
I could be Hef if you want me to. Look, I think authentication, third-party grading, all of that is significant to our industry. It makes us all speak the same language, And for the three of us who really, our businesses are so heavily reliant on selling over the internet, we can confidently sell, or one of our clients can confidently buy something that's a PSA 10 or an SGC 10 or Mears or JSA or Beckett, whatever the case may be. We all speak that same language. So, nobody's perfect. Everybody makes mistakes, but certainly having that standard reduces the mistakes. And when Hef said disenchantment, you want to cut down on disenchantment as much as possible.
We are chatting with Brian Dwyer from REA Auctions, Joe Orlando from Heritage, and Mike Hefner from Leland's. I want to ask you guys, let's talk about, I always call it the 80-20 rule, maybe the 90-10 rule. 90% of the collectors in this building cannot afford a $500,000 card. They're budget collectors. They can spend a few $100, a few $1,000, but that Honus Wagner card or that PSA 9 mantle is not for everyone. In your opinion, let's talk about what you guys think. I don't care I don't want to talk about overrated cards. Let's talk about underrated cards, if we can, for a moment. I'm going to throw out a few. For a collector, an Al Kaline, using Al Kaline as an example, a PSA 4, 5, or 6 Al Kaline, or George Brett, or Robin Yount. Are those cards still kind of dead in the water? Or, the first T206 cards, Joe, that I bought, I paid $11 for them. I was talking about a Harry Putty card that I spent $11 on, and it's a $175, $180 card now, $200 card. So if a collector invests $100, $200 in a low-grade Al Kaline and just holds on to it, is that a good investment over long term? Could be 10 years, whatever.
A lot to unpack there. So I would echo what Mike said earlier, which is, look, if we're focusing on kind of the financial aspect of it, if we're talking about that, long term, the names, the Mount Rushmore names, the icons, the legends, those are the places that, look, if we're talking strictly financially, That's where you want to.
So you're
park
talking
your
the
money.
Ruths, the Cobbs, the Garricks.
Right. I mean, because Al Kaline, as great as he is, and he's Hall of Famer and one of the all-time great, he's never going to be that guy. That said, I guess the way I would answer your question is, I've always been a believer, and this was advice given to me as a very young man: buy the best quality you can afford. I know people want to focus on the financial aspect of that because those are the types of items that tend to perform best over time, but it's more about personal satisfaction. As a collector, when you buy the best that you can afford, those are the items that you can look at every day and you'll never look for an upgrade. Those are the ones that are most satisfying as a collector, and I know both Mike and Brian can understand this point as fellow collectors. Sometimes you'll buy something and maybe it's a placeholder. At some point you're going to have to upgrade it. But when you buy the best quality you can afford, those are the items you look at every day. You're totally satisfied with, and you can move on to something else. So there's some different layers to your question, but I don't think you can turn an Al Kaline or a Tony Perez into a Lou Gehrig or a Willie Mays. They're just it sort of is what it is.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Hef?
Yeah, that Joe pretty much summed it up there. You can't turn the mediocre Hall of Famers into the cornerstone Hall of Famers. And but on the other hand, if you're a Tiger collector, I mean, put together a run of Al Kaline cards. I mean, that's fun. That's something cool to do. And if you can afford twos, then buy twos. If you can afford fives, buy fives. Do what Joe said. Buy within your means, and always. If it brings you joy and you can afford it, do it. As far as underrated stuff, I mean, I'll use this just to plug my passion here, Tom. Wrestling cards. I love wrestling. And I think wrestling cards are very underrated. They've been picking up in value. But
by the way, there's a guy that's running a Coke stand in that corner. He's probably about 25 years old. Spitting image of Bruno Sammartino. Spitting image.
It may be him reincarnated.
And I told him that. I said, you're Bruno. He says, you know how many people tell me that. But go ahead.
Wow.
I digress.
So yeah, I love wrestling. I love the wrestling cards, and it's something that, it's a sport that's televised. It's on almost every night of the week. So that's my passion and joy, and that's something. Maybe it's just because I like it a lot that I think that it's going to go up in value, but it doesn't matter if it goes up in value. If you enjoy wrestling, if you enjoy soccer, and if you enjoy football, collect it.
You know who's a neighbor of ours? John Cena.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he lives.
Yeah.
We're on the water.
Could you go visit him for me?
You know what he did? He just built a beautiful home, and he's never there, so his folks kind of take care of it for him.
Well, if he has a yard sale, let me know.
I will. Brian, what are your thoughts?
First of all, I'm surprised you could see John Cena. But, yeah, I mean, so I think that, kind of piggybacking off Hef, I think that some of the non-baseball, I think hockey has a lot of room to run. I think there's some very significant hockey cards that might have a future. And then, as far as second-tier Hall of Famers, I think the only exception I might say is when it comes to memorabilia. I still think that if you have a guy like Al Kaline, you got a really high-quality bat or you got a really high-quality jersey, that could be a very good long-term investment. And again, purely financial, ultimately collect what you like. But, they're not making a ton of them, and now we're going to get hit. So they're throwing stuff from the other side.
Oh, they're throwing all sorts of stuff.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, so,
Is that what goes on over here?
Yeah, you can't turn Al Kaline into Babe Ruth, but still not a bad guy to keep your eye on.
There's another topic, and we talked about it on the last show, that I want to run by you guys. With the uptick in what's happened in this industry, I mean, just tremendous growth. There's also been a tremendous uptick in crime. Card shops getting broken into on a fairly regular basis. Rich Miller, the headline that we read every week is about a new break-in at whether it be a card shop, a little mom and pop shop, or a big company. Crime seems to have spiked tremendously in the last year and a half. I mean, I just read some folks stole the Yogi Berra's rings and melted them down, right? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And I mean, how can it be policed, Joe? I mean, you guys have some pretty powerful, let's call them guards at your place. But I mean, I'm talking about the Mormon. What can be done?
This would be, I guess, my angle as you were articulating the question. This is where my mind goes. Look, where there's money, there's crime, right? In everything, and the levels have gone up so much in the past 2 or 3 years that it becomes an enticing target. This industry becomes a target for that kind of thing. This is what I would say. I think most collectors in this room, maybe not, but would be stunned about how many collectors don't insure their collections. And it's kind of frightening when you talk to people that have 6-figure and 7-figure collections and they don't have it either insured or at least or fully insured. I would highly recommend getting your collections fully insured, because I have heard of friends of mine who have had thefts, that sort of thing.
Sure.
And it's that's a real problem, because when it happens, you never think it's going to happen to you, but when it does, you don't want to be making your claim and again with either underinsuring it dramatically or you have nothing at all. You need to part of collecting, and let me just finish with this, you have to manage your collection. Part of it is protecting it, the way you store it, the way you display it, the way you insure it. It's not just about buying the stuff. So that would be my piece of advice, is to fully insure your material.
I think that's a great piece of advice for, again, our viewers and listeners out there and our audience. It's really important that you have your collection insured. As a matter of fact, a little later on, Tom Ruggie from Family Wealth is going to be joining us to talk about your investment portfolio and, making plans if you ever want to liquidate it. Hef, what are your thoughts on all of this about the whole crime thing? I mean, it does seem to have been an uptick. Is there anything that can be done to police it?
Well, I think we've always had, as in any industry, whether it's stockbrokers or, whatever it might be, there's always an amount of criminality that goes on within the field. So, I mean, protecting your collection, if we're talking about that, I can speak firsthand because my home was burglarized about 3 or 4 months ago, and I lost some of my collection. And it's the worst feeling in the world, believe me. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody, but I learned from it. If you have a high dollar value collection or you have stuff that you really cherish, make sure you lock it up. I know it's hard not to show friends and not to show your collection off, but try not to make it too blatant of what you have or where you have it. I hate safety deposit boxes, because if you're putting your stuff in a safety deposit box, why even have it if you have to go to the bank and look at it? But I would certainly recommend having a safe that's not movable or bolted into the floor. And those of you that collect cards, it's pretty easy to get thousands of cards into a safe, and the safe will run you $2,000 to $3,000 for a really, really strong, heavy-duty one. And just like Joe said, over 90% of these thefts that take place at either a show or someone's home, the stuff is gone. You'll never see it again. So sometimes it's not even about the money; it's about losing a piece of your heart, losing a piece of your collection, losing something that means a lot to you. So I would just say, not for everybody to be so paranoid, but just make sure you protect yourselves and guard your stuff the best you can, without being paranoid and without having to worry about your stuff, leaving it where you can enjoy it.
Brian? It's interesting because we just mentioned Tom Ruggie. Tom, grab a mic. We're talking about insuring your collection. We're talking about what people can do with their collection going down. Brian, I want to get your thoughts first.
Yeah, so I mean, the hobby obviously over the last couple of years has benefited from a tremendous amount of exposure and media coverage, and that's helped bring in this new, great, exciting element of collectors. but it's also raised the profile for the criminal element. And, like Joe was alluding to, we all have security guards at our booth. We all have safes at our offices. We all have pretty high-tech theft deterrent systems. But oftentimes, unfortunately, my dad was a state trooper. He said a majority of crime is crime of opportunity. And so if you just take the precautions and God forbid something happens, or God forbid, you let your guard down, or one of your mechanisms is circumvented, have it insured, have it documented. And it's a terrible feeling, but at least there's some consolation because you've prepared for it.
We were talking to Steve Lane. You know Steve. Do you know Steve Lane? No. Steve has a small exhibit at the Heritage Auction, Mickey Mantle guy. So, Steve was on the show in the first hour, and he had 8 items that he FedExed down to Heritage to be displayed that he was going to put on auction. And out of the 8, 4 of them, I believe, were stolen from a FedEx employee. Opened up the box. Now they were investigating it. About 50. We talked about it. He said you can talk about it. $55,000 or $60,000 worth of theft. So it's happening all over the place. So it's really, really important. Number one, as Joe mentioned, you got to get your collection insured. You got to get your collection insured. That's at the top of the list. But then once you have your collection insured, what do you do with it? Tom, why don't you tell us, Tom Ruggi, tell us about the name of your company and some of the things that you do.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes. So
you have to talk a little loud. It's a little noisy.
All right. Yeah, it's loud. My name's Tom Ruggi. I actually run a wealth management company and family office. But over the last year or so, what I've really started focusing my business on is people with collectibles, because I've been collecting since I was 7 years old, and it's a huge passion of mine. So what I'm really working with high-end collectors to do is to set up a process where they've taken care of everything that they ought to take care of with their collection. So as Joe mentioned, not just insuring the collection, but what's your security. And then, an example very personally close to me is the succession planning of your collection, because in my personal situation, I have 2 children and a wife, none of who could care less about the wonderful collection I've built up. So it's important to document what you have, but also to figure out if, God forbid, something were to happen to you at an early age, or if something happened to you down the road, what is the best methodology of potentially liquidating your collection. And of course, one of the things could be with auction houses such as Heritage and REA sitting here. Those are great examples of what would actually happen to my collection if I didn't make it home from this trip.
God forbid.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay. I'm sorry, we're talking giveaways. We're going to be giving away shortly. This is an interesting book. It's called 100 Greatest Baseball Autographs. Ellen and I wrote this several years ago with John Mallory. And actually, this book won the Ben Franklin Award. We're going to give one of these away. We have a trivia question. And then we also wrote another book that won the silver medal. It's called Baseball and Bubblegum. It's about the 1952 Topps collection. And our partner here, Mr. Joseph Orlando, wrote this book with us. This is going to be the first one we're going to give away, because this goes hand in hand with this gentleman's collection. Tom, why don't you tell our audience, Tom's got a collection of 1952 Topps cards, but it's not just any collection. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. Well, my 52 set is the number one set on the registry. I have all the cards signed in the set with the exception of 10, and I actually have located 3 of the 10 that I need, and am currently trying to work a deal out on that. I may have to take out a mortgage on my house, but it'll get me within 7 of having the complete set. But not only that, I've continuously upgraded the set. So on the PSA registry, my set has 76% of either the highest graded or tied for highest graded cards. So it's a work in progress, and again, talking about, God forbid, dying too early, my hope is to complete this by the day I die.
Oh, by the way, in a few minutes, Al Christofoli from Love of the Game Auctions is supposed to be joining us. I asked Al to join us because you guys know Love of the Game. He's kind of like a tweener, and is a little something for everyone. You've got three powerhouse auction houses, and then you've got some smaller auction houses, and they all have a little niche. And they're all good for the hobby. So I asked Al to join us. All right, so I'm going to give this away right now. This is signed, by the way. You signed this, you know that? This was a couple that we had left over. Right. So we're going to give a copy of this. This is Baseball and Bubblegum, the 1952 Topps collection. Actually, it's a very easy question, so you have to raise your hand fast. First person that raises his hand, no arguments, gets it. Signed by myself, Ellen, and Joe Orlando. You have to answer the question first. All right, here's the question. Real quickly. Who's the number one card in the Topps 52 set? Right there. Ron. Right there. Andy Pafko. You win, sir. Andy Pafko. And actually, that card is a fairly valuable card, isn't it, Joe? Because of the reason being is because it being number one, there's not many that are in pretty good shape.
Yeah, I mean, this goes to the heart of collecting. So, as Tom was referring to, building sets. So, to a collector who's just collecting Ruth and Mantle and Mays and Clemente, it may not appeal. But for someone who wants a complete 1952 Topps set, the number one card, Andy Pafko, because it was first card in the series, it had to deal with a lot of handling and damage over the years. There aren't too many that are in ultra high grade, so when those come up, available on the market, they tend to sell for a tremendous amount of money.
Interesting. I want to ask you guys a question. The whole Shohei Ohtani, it's just exploded. Everything about this guy has exploded as far as him being as great as he is. He hasn't been around that long. He's been around, I think he's been a pro for about 7 or 8 years total. Got probably 175 home runs lifetime. People are comparing him to Babe Ruth. I want your thoughts on that. Hef, you're first.
I can't comment because I never saw Babe Ruth play. So, I mean, Babe Ruth, comparing him to Babe Ruth, I mean, the guy is superhuman, obviously. There's something about him that, he's a one in a gazillion player and human being. But I don't know if he has, comparing him to Babe Ruth, maybe the stats and that kind of stuff, but Babe Ruth was mystical, and this guy doesn't seem to be that character because I don't know him personally, of course, but Babe Ruth appealed to everyone, women, children, old men, and he had, the hot dog incident and his carousing and all the, Babe Ruth's statistics and accomplishments in baseball were not the only thing that made him legendary. The things he did off the field, the way he grew up, and all that stuff had a lot to do with his legend. And I don't know if Ohtani is ever going to reach the level of Babe Ruth. I don't think there'll ever be another Babe Ruth. Maybe statistically he'll get there in today's day and age with the injuries and everything else that's going on. We'll see, but he's never going to be Babe Ruth. And I kind of snicker when I hear people. He's got one facet, one element of Babe Ruth, but he's never going to have the other 3 or 4 that made Babe Ruth.
Very, very well said. Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, that's an incredible take. I mean, I imagine that when Babe Ruth was playing, he captivated audiences. I mean, Shohei Ohtani is an electric player right now. I think the thing that Ohtani has that Ruth didn't is that he's global, and I think that's exciting. It's expanding the game. It's expanding the hobby. Statistically, he may get there. But yeah, Ruth, larger than life guy.
Joe?
You know, it's a great topic. I agree with Mike when he led off. It's really unfair to compare players from other generations. I know we all love to do it, including me. You can't help it, but
Right.
it just isn't fair because there's so many, pros and cons and advantages, disadvantages. But I'm going to steal from a Bob Costas take. I heard Bob Costas on a podcast a few weeks ago, and I thought he brought up a really good point. Look, with Ruth, there was no DH, right? So once the Yankees said, look, you're going to hit full time, you're not pitching anymore, the fans never got to see him do it simultaneously for the rest of his career.
Good point.
So what's great is, like, again, going back to what Mike said about just the performance angle of it, they're both separate. They're both unique. With Ohtani, we get to see him do both at the same time. We didn't get to see that for much of Ruth's career. Early on, a little bit, but once they saw what he could do with the bat, it was like, look, even though you're on your way to the Hall of Fame as a left-handed pitcher, you have to hit because there's no DH at the time. So Ruth didn't have that advantage that Ohtani has today. So I think they're both going to be treated separately. The one point I'd like to make about Ohtani, I think is interesting, and I think it separates him from everybody else that's playing today. I wonder if fans and collectors, I don't think that we're going to require that he does it for as long as a guy like Mike Trout, because what he's doing is so unique. So maybe Ohtani only needs, who knows, 7, 8, 9 years of this kind of thing to eventually be a candidate for the Hall of Fame, because we've never seen it before. It's not that Ruth didn't have the ability to do it.
Right.
He didn't have the opportunity to do it.
Good point. Tom, this is your first national?
No, this is my second national.
Second.
Yes.
I want to get your opinions, all four of you, on, especially you three guys. The technology here is a little overwhelming for some people. You see companies here that are just came out of nowhere, and they're high-tech companies. Mike, from day one when you started to some of the high-tech stuff that's here today, what are your thoughts on that? It's like almost like going into the space age. What are your thoughts on that?
It blows my mind because we didn't even have, back in the 80s and, even 70s. I don't want to date myself that bad, but we didn't have cell phones. Can you believe that? No one could look up prices. We didn't have Price Realized. When we used to do auctions, we used to have boards hanging in the office, and we used to write the bids on the boards to keep track of the bids. Now, it just boggles my mind, and it actually makes me a little bit sad because I'd like to go back to the days when there weren't the cell phones and we couldn't look everything up on the computer and we didn't have prices realized. So to me, it's overwhelming. I can't keep up with it, and I don't understand some of it. I hate to admit it, but I don't even understand some of it.
That's great points. Nor do I. Brian, you're a little younger, but you've seen it. Just look at the break pavilion. Just what's going on here. What are your thoughts from when you started?
Yeah, I am a little younger, and even I don't understand all of it. But, when I was at my first national, you could grade something on site, and the pop report wouldn't update for weeks. So you'd come here, you'd grade stuff on site, you'd jam the pop report, you wouldn't find out what happened until they released the pop report the next month. So, yeah, there's been tremendous innovation. We've innovated in our business. Every one of us here has been part of something innovative, and that's exciting. And obviously, whatever brings people in is exciting, and maybe you come in for a short burst, maybe you stay for a long time, but however you get here is fine by me.
Tom?
Well, it's definitely sensory overload being here, but it's a fantastic show. I have never bought a box of cards to break in my entire life, but I actually caught the craze, and I've got a little bag here with 3 boxes that I brought that I'll see if I get lucky, but it's pure fun for me.
It's a whole new dynamic, Joe, right? As far as the case breaks, and obviously you've seen some changes here. What are your thoughts about all this technology?
Yeah, I think to me the biggest difference when you go, as Mike was referring to, back in the 80s, 90s, and you fast forward to today, it's to me, it's access to information and access to the product itself. Brian, when we were talking about Ohtani, he's like, oh yeah, he's a global star. Well, so is the entire industry now. When I was a teenager, I was pretty much limited to the local baseball card shop. If I wanted to get really crazy and risk doing mail order, I could do that back in the 1980s, and you didn't know what you were going to get in the mail, but you were that limited. Now, I mean, collectors have any type of information they need. Brian mentioned pop reports, pricing, whatever it is, but access to the product you can buy anywhere, all over the world. So it's never been a better time to be a collector, but that's the biggest difference to me in the last 30, 40 years are those two things: access to information and access to the stuff that we love to buy.
What about we have a few minutes left. What about non-sports items? I mean, the whole Pokemon phenomena. I don't understand it. I'm sure you're an expert at it.
I love Pokemon.
As much as wrestling.
What is Pokemon? Is that the bear? I don't know. No, I don't understand it, but obviously it's working. Look out here. You know, how many people do we have that came for that stuff? And hopefully they also, some of them become sports fans and sports collectors. I like the crossover. Just because I don't understand it doesn't mean that it's not good. And, I see how it's appealing to kids, and I think I know adults are collecting much of it, but I think it's just as important that we get kids out, and if that's what they understand, that's what they want to start with, that's great, because I'll tell you, I look out there and I see more kids now than I have in the past 10 years at the National Convention. So
unbelievable.
These guys must be doing something right.
Brian?
Yeah, I mean, we have been a vintage baseball auction house for 30 years, but even in the last year or two, we've started selling Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And other TCG. So, the market's changing, the access to the product, the globalization, it's all coming together. And, I don't understand it. I missed the Pokemon growing up, but I love that people love it, and I love that they're passionate about it. And what I was collecting when I was 13, it's totally different than what I'm collecting now. But I got into the hobby, I felt the energy, I felt the passion, and I stayed and I just changed.
All right, we've got about 3 minutes left. Last T-shirt for that gentleman right there.
That's a great catch.
Nice catch, good hand. All right, our last giveaway, and this is a copy of the 100 Greatest Baseball Autographs. This is signed by just Ellen and I. We won't get into that. But here's the trivia question. You answer it, you own it. First one that raises their hand. This book was kind of an effort by a lot of people, and this is the 100 Greatest Baseball Autographs. Number one in this book, unequivocally, is Babe Ruth, the most sought after autograph of all the autographs. In this book, who's number two? Wrong. 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 Come on. Who is number two? Wrong. 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 Who is the number two most sought after autograph? Who? No. No one isn't. Excuse me, you were the expert.
That was a long time ago. I don't remember what.
According to this, come on, who's number two? Who? No. Trout. I'm gonna have to give a hint. Gonna have to give a hint.
Jackie Robinson?
No. You guys are like, come on. Number two. And that's fair. That's legit. All right, I'll give you a hint. Should I give him a hint? We got about 35 seconds left. All right. Should I give him a hint? All right, hit. Wrong. Wrong. All right. Who?
Wasn't he closer to that?
Who did you say?
Cy Young.
You're close, but no cigar. Nope. All right.
Say 3:30.
All right. The answer, I'll give you a hint. This gentleman died at an early age. He was a kind of a hero in World War I. World War I, died from getting gassed later on in life. Mustard gas. Come on, you're killing me here. You guys are killing me. How about you, sir? Would you know? All right, he's a right-handed pitcher. He wrote a book called Pitching. Who did?
Right there.
Christy Mathewson. Here you go.
Wow.
That was like
They were going to be easy ones.
that was like getting a root canal. We're just about out of time, but I'd like you to come up here real quick, sir. Mr. Fashionably Late. We've got a few minutes. You have to come around this way. You know Al, right?
You have an extra microphone? Or?
No, he can. Joe, can he just use this for one second? Don't even move. No, don't. You can just sit down. We wanted to invite.
I'm
sorry.
Oh, that's quite all right. Here, slip in. We've got 5 minutes. Get in here. We'll get an extra 5 minutes. I wanted to invite Al Crisafulli from Love of the Game Auctions because these three gentlemen represent the giant auction houses. They're the biggest in the business. A couple of others, Sotheby's, Memory Lane. Al is kind of, I call him a tweener. You're really a tweener.
Sure.
You're not a mom and pop auction house. You can hold this in your hand. Not a mom and pop auction house, but you have a great niche. Tell us a little bit about Love of the Game Auctions and how big you are, how many people you have, but then we'll talk about some of your items.
Sure. It's like 1,000 degrees here.
I know it is.
So
Talk
Love
about
of the Game has been around for 11 years. We're in our 11th year. We tend to focus on the kind of stuff that you don't see every day. Emphasis on pre-war baseball, really, but a little bit of everything, all sports, but mostly stuff that has a story to it. Things you don't often encounter in the hobby. It's a nice little niche.
The thing that I wanted you folks to know about Al's auction house is that you don't have to break the bank. He's got some really high-end stuff, but if you have a budget and you can stick to that budget, you'll do very, very, very well with Love of the Game Auctions. What's your website, Al?
It's loveofthegameauctions.com.
I want to thank everybody that was here today. Mike Hefner from Leland's Auctions, Joe Orlando from Heritage Auctions, Brian Dwyer from REA Auctions, Tom Ruggi. I love the name. It rolls off. Tom, is it Family Office? What is it?
It's Destiny Family Office.
Destiny Family Office, and our good friend Al Crisafulli from Love of the Game Auctions. Don't forget, we'd love you guys to watch the show. We're on every Wednesday night on the Great American Collectibles Facebook page, Sports Collectors Daily Facebook page. We have another major announcement coming after the National. We're going to be on another major platform. You can watch us on YouTube, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all that stuff. And we're on the Valley 980, WCAP up in the Boston area. We'd love you to follow us. We'd love you to like us. I co-host a show with my two dear friends, Red Sox Hall of Famer Rico Petrocelli and Boston sports personality John Mallory. With that being said, guys, thank you so much. Love you guys. Love our audience. Happy collecting.
What'd you end up buying?
Oh, he did? 3 boxes of all this ATV.
Oh, yeah? Thank you, sir. Do you want your knife back? What? Your knife back? He's going to go use it on radio. I could use it. You say Brian. Yeah, you really think this really is show up. This more time? Yeah, I'll come back. Yeah, I'm going to
How's everyone doing? You guys having a lot of fun today here at the National? Give it up for these gentlemen right here. They had a great show, the Great American Sports Collectible Show. Awesome job, guys. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Next up, we do have at 3:30 Heritage Auctions with Blake Martinez breaking some Pokemon. You guys looking forward to that? But right now, we're going to break a little box of Sage football. So what we're going to do is, if you guys are interested, I have some trivia questions. You answer them right, you'll get the pack that I open up. And in this box, you get 16 autographs in every box. So, lots of autos. Any NFL fans here? Any college football fans? Yeah, okay. We're in Chicago. That makes sense. No, where are you guys from? All right, Packers fans. Well, you're in Chicago. You know that. All right, you're in enemy territory, though. You know that. Okay. What's that? You guys usually do, yeah. We're just getting set up really quick, guys. We'll be right with you. What's that? Yeah, I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Oh, I hope so. I hope my hands fire up, baby. How many of you guys watch Go GTS Live on Thursday nights? Anyone here? Oh, we got some fans over there. All right. Appreciate you. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. So show it that way? Okay. All right, guys. So first up we have, this could be a little tough though.
What? Hold on just a second.
Yep. Go. All right, we have Devin Echaney. Cam Smith. Clayton Tune parallel. Here's our auto. Atoa Tua. Got Brian Branch, parallel. Kendre Miller. And how about Luke Schoonmaker? All right. So, who can tell me which university Devin Echaney went to? So raise your hand if you know the answer to that. My man back there. No. Bama? No. Devin Echaney, running back. Going once. Going twice. I'll reserve this pack for later. What was that? Greenville? No. About Bijan Robinson, Will Anderson Jr., Eric Gray. We have a nice gold parallel autograph out of 100 of Ryan Greenhagen. Cam Smith, Logan Bonner, and Trey Palmer. Let's see. Easy one for you guys if you're NFL fans or college football fans. Which university did Will Anderson Jr. go to? Raise your hand. Don't want to hear it. I'll call you. Cubs. You got it. Congratulations, buddy. You got it. Raise your hand, guys. I need order here. All right, we have Jaron Hall, Luke Van Ness, Charles McClelland. Our autograph is a Joel Wilson. We have a John Tortino. It looks like a little wrapping on the card that came with it. A Zach Charbonneau. And a Luke Musgrave. So again, guys, we're opening up 2023 Sage High Series football. A lot of these names you may not be familiar with, but Sage does a great job with including all the draft picks and also undrafted free agents. So we'll find out what the next question will be. Which university did Luke Van Ness attend? Iowa, correct. Come on up, my man.
Not yet, I'll let you know.
I know my man James over there, our producer for Go GTS Live, is going to like this one. Jordan Addison. Brian Branch. Ty J. Spears. Here's a nice autograph. A wide receiver of Jaden Reed. Ryan Greenhagen. Lindsey Scott Jr. And the Malik Knowles. We're going to stay with the university theme. That seems to be the easiest probably with all of this. Okay, here's an easy one, I guess. Which university did Jordan Addison attend? My man. No. Let me go to New Pittsburgh? No. My man. USC? You got it. Come on up, my man. We're going to learn universities today. What? Both? What? He was a senior at USC when he came out, so he was a transfer. Exactly. No worries. It's all good. We're all learning here, right?